Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 6. We're past the halfway point now, folks. We only got 4 episodes left. Okay, I'm here for it, though. I'm excited. And hey, take as long as you need to make Season 3. Let's make sure everybody who works on that show gets the money they deserve in order to make that next season. I'm here for it. I can wait. I can wait as long as you want. Coming off the high of last week, where we ended the episode with a really beautiful smoochy, we dive into a new episode that's not really about those characters, which is, look, it's fine. That's the serialized storytelling we do when we talk about this stuff. You know, it becomes very episodic, where, yeah, last week, Spock and Chapel, they get a little kissy on, and maybe they did a little bit more than kiss. They kind of imply it in this episode that maybe it went a little further than a smooch. But this one, all about Uhura, and I'm like, yeah, that's the first episode that's really been about her this season, because she has definitely been a supporting character. She hasn't done much in a lot of the other episodes. Like, literally last week, she just kind of told Chapel, like, figure your shit out. Like, come on, we have to get on this. So, one about her, that's great. This episode is kind of like the spearhead to what the original series was going to be. Because this is a Uhura and Kirk episode. Kind of weird to think about, because he's not a main character, but Kirk is back. We'll talk about him in a minute. But what we're doing here is that one day we're just on the bridge and everything's going great. And then Uhura hears something that doesn't get picked up on any frequency. She's like, what is that? I heard a voice, I don't know what it is, and then she starts to have hallucinations. Kind of, they start forming in the manifestation of Hemmer, who we lost in the previous season because he died to sacrifice himself to save everybody. We stan a king. Hemmer is great. Now, it's very weird how they were going to replace him, but it's just, it's just great. Carol Kane just shows up, and she's like to Uhura, you missed that guy. I trained him. He's pretty good, right? Well, hey, why don't you just trust me? Well, I'll be okay. This episode is pretty much Carol Kane just being like, don't you young people worry. I've been through hell and back, and I'll be okay no matter what. There's literally like a side plot with Una Chin Riley and Pelia where it's just kind of like, you're not disrespecting my orders. And you think it's kind of like a personal dig because she's insubordinate and she's like old and thinks she knows better. And she gets called a space hippie by Riley. And it's just a good counteraction to everything going on. Because we're docked in like this weird cluster. We're using like these particles to charge the Enterprise. And it's just like free gas somewhere. And then this episode slowly becomes, what if that gas had feelings, which is very bizarre. This episode, more than any of the other ones, really had a bunch of different tones going for it. So it's kind of like a goofy comedy. Here's like Pelia and Una Chin Riley just like, oh, I don't like the way you treat me. I don't like being insubordinate and that kind of stuff. And then you have Uhura dealing with this thing where she has like these nightmares flashing through her mind of like tragedies that haven't really happened yet. But some of them did happen, you know, like the memories of her parents, kind of bringing up like the death of things and that kind of stuff. And we learn that there's like another crew member aboard the other ship who's been kind of having the same reactions as her. Because we're not the only spaceship in this quadrant at the moment. Is the Faraday? Is that the name of the ship that he just got promoted on? So he's slowly building up the ranks to where he's going to be. And Kirk is just on the ship now. And it's a really fun moment where a lot of things happen as well. So Kirk's on the ship. He has a fight with his brother because his brother just got like a really good promotion. And he's doing new stuff in like extraterrestrial zoology or something. But it's not like the straightforward, like, here's a man working his way up to captain that their dad would like. And that's what Kirk's doing. But he's doing it faster than anybody because the previous person to do it at the speed Kirk was doing was their dad. Sam's kind of pissed off about that. So they're fighting about their father. And I think that's great. And that leaves James, I should call him James because I guess we're dealing with two Kirks in this one. That leaves James in a very vulnerable place and he's kind of pissed off. At the same time, while we're in like this literal like bar, we hear Chapel and Spock talking about like the nature of their relationship and how it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat relationship, where the more we talk about it and have it out, the more it changes the shape of what it is. And if we just leave it in the box, then we can control what it is. At that point too, Uhura just kind of got out of like sick bay because they think she's like having like some dilithium poisoning and it's like messing with her mind. But she's like, no, I think I'm okay. I think there's something else happening to me, and I don't think it's that. She's also very tired, and her kind of like older gentleman bosses are like, maybe you should just sleep more, and all your problems would go away. Of course, that's not going to work. We know that's stupid. But hey, you gotta do it. And she tries to tell Spock, but he's like, no, you are definitely poisoned. And it's James Kirk, the only person on this ship that believes something's up with her. And then it's just a mission of Uhura and Kirk working together to figure out what's wrong with her. And you know what? I can't hate it. I have been very hesitant. Well, especially in like the first season. When Paul Wesley showed up in the first season, I didn't love his Kirk. And then we had him appear in the third episode of this season, where him and Leon had like a really brilliant story. That was really cool. But this is like the main timeline Kirk. And this is the best he's been because a lot of things happen with this Kirk. First off, he is just smooth to every single female crew member of the ship. I appreciate that so much. The only one we don't really see him like interact with in like a flirtatious way is Chapel because she's doing something with the Vulcan. I appreciate that. There's just subtle moments throughout the episode where you just see him trying to make Uhura comfortable, even with like Leon, and he's kind of just being like, hey, maybe you still owe me that drink, And I'm like, that's Kirk. Like, you nailed it. You got everything right with him. Just the weird, strange relationship with his brother and his father being present there too. I appreciate that immensely, and it just kind of worked. And then as the story progresses, it turns into like a freaky horror story because one of these crew members aboard the other ship is having the same issues that Uhura was hearing, like the thing in her head that you can't control. And then suddenly he's trying to like sabotage everything. So he's like literally trying to sabotage like the station where they're like extracting the dilithium, and then he's running aboard like the ship trying to like kill himself to get out of like the pod to show you like we're dying, this is bad. There's like a scene in the middle of the episode where it's like these people just running through a darkened hallway. This guy uses like, I don't know what it is, a piece of shrapnel to like kill a person. And there's just blood dripping down the halls. It's like this dark exterior. Like, this is kind of sick. Like, this is straight up like alien stuff. And I appreciate it so much. It looks so freaking cool. And it's dark. And you're like, yeah, last week we just did like a hijinks episode. And now this one, people are getting like cut up and bleeding out. And that's kind of scary. A lot of stuff kind of just happens to lead up to that moment. There's not a lot of Pike in this episode. And he's been kind of like back and forth. He's in more of this one than previous ones because he slowly starts to realize, yeah, there's clearly something else going on here, and it's not just that you might be poisoned. There's like a weird thing happening to you that's happening to this guy, and we got to figure out what it is. So what's happening to Uhura? Well, she's a master of communications. Maybe the best to ever communicate in a communication. She's good at talking and speaks and languages and all that stuff. Speaks is not a word, but you know what I mean. So she starts to theorize that maybe the thing that she's hearing is a message being decoded by a being of a different dimension or a different frequency that can't communicate any other way. So her and Kirk have to go talk to Sam Kirk. Her and James, I should say. Again, let's call him Kirk. I'm not used to two Kirks aboard my Enterprise. I'm just not used to that. I just like the one up there. The one that should stay up there, I do like it, though. So he's like, yeah, so I've been theorizing, this is Sam, of course, that maybe there's like some extra dimensional beings that we can't see, but they could try to communicate with us through like these frequencies, like the way that you would use like your universal communicator to talk to something you don't know. They're trying to do that same thing with your speech pattern. And sometimes they can like attach themselves to physical things in our dimension, like the dilithium. So the thing we are using to fuel our ships actually has living beings connected to it. And the more we take from them, the more we are harming them and we're killing them. And I'm like, that's a really cool idea. It's basic, and we kind of did it before last season with like the ghost in like that one place that was being attacked. But you know what? Star Trek is nothing if not all about extra dimensional beings. So the fact that like our gas is alive and we shouldn't be consuming that much fuels, hey, you could look for the message there if you want, or it's just straight up, yeah, the gas is sad because we're killing it. And Pike makes the decision like, okay, I'm going to trust Uhura and her judgment on here, and we're going to blow up like literally the station that's mining this dilithium. And they do that, and it's all hunky-dory. I love that. It's so cool. He's got so many different vibes going on. It's a comedy for a bit. It's a flirtatious thing for a bit with just Kirk being the coolest guy ever, and you just love it. You just love it. And then it's like a horror movie with people being cut in the dark and this guy killing himself in front of Kirk and Uhura, and you're just like, this is pretty damn cool. Pretty damn impressive. And if you think that's like just not the perfect ending, you know, we wrap up the Pelia and Unachin Riley story where it's kind of like, you're insubordinate, I don't like your attitude, you're like a space hippie, but you also gave me a C when I was in your class, so I'm pissed off about that. She's like, no, you're not. You're just pissed off that, like, I'm not Hemmer because you had a relationship with Hemmer. And that's kind of like another running theme, because Uhura, too, is kind of like, has to learn to deal with death. There's like a beautiful moment in the middle of the episode where Kirk's like, yeah, this is part of the job. Like, we risk our lives, and with that comes death, but we don't have to let death control us. You've lost your parents. You lost your friend. Do not lose yourself to death the way that death is lost to you. I'm like, that's just great, and I love that so much. And, you know, if that wasn't enough, this episode just does something. I don't know if every single person in the audience is going to be like, yeah, that's awesome, but the moment at the end where Uhura and James are just sitting down, having their drinks, and it's a really pleasant moment. It's like two people slowly becoming friends in a different capacity, and then Spock shows up, and we just do like a close-up shot of Kirk and Spock like shaking hands. He's like, why don't you join us, Spock? And Spock sits down, and we're like, yeah, that's the crew. I still think if we get like 10 seasons of this show, it's leading into the original series. Like, we could see Pike and Leon and Una vanish from the show, and because like there are references to some of the other ones in the original show. Like, Chapel, of course, is in the original series. M'Benga, I think, is in some of the episodes of the original series. Ortegas might be. I can't remember if she is, but it definitely feels like this is a setup to show you, like, yeah, we know what we're doing. Eventually, we'll probably see a Bones, and we'll see a Scotty, and a Sulu at some point. I imagine we will. I imagine by the end of this season, we'll at least get a reference to another one of them. I would say Bones. I feel like it could be done that maybe, like, Chapel's friends with him, you know, like, hey, this is like not even like competition to put him in competition with Spock, but like, no, this is like my friend from the academy, you know, Leonard McCoy. Could see that being the case. Could be kind of fun. But hey, wrapping it up with the three leads of the original series, that's a really cool thing to see happen. And it's having this episode be like horrific and comedic and all this different stuff. That's impressive. This show is still 6 for 6 for me, and I'm very excited to see what's coming next. So that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.